Here we go then. So this is a bit of a fun job, and you'll see here, look at this gun. Whew. The AccuSpray from 3M. We do have the finer tips, the black ones, and also these white ones. I'm not sure what the white ones are called. This is a phenomenal gun. You see everybody using them at the minute, and I'm sure 3M have done a round of sort of giving a load out. This was a company gun, and I mentioned in the last video I've left this place, and one of the reasons, honestly, and I didn't mention it in the other one, again, I don't want to be sort of bashing this place, you know, saying that they're bad, but their gun wash was horrendous. Again, I'm quite sort of proud of my guns. I want them clean. They're my tools. These guns are how I make my money and provide for my wife and children and all this sort of stuff, right? You don't look after them, you're not going to end up with a good quality job. You know, then people are going to say, you know, what's going on, or bits of stuff will come flying out of your gun into the middle of a paint job, and then that's going to be horrible and all that stuff. And they had these guns here with the changeable ends and all that stuff, and I just said, you know what, I'm not using mine anymore. I'll use my my Porphis for clear coat because I love the clear coat gun, and the gun wash just about sprays thinners, and you know, I can get around cleaning it, so that's what I've been doing mostly, to be honest. And so yeah, they had these in the workshop, so I just started using them. I went and got myself some nozzles out of the stores. This one's a 1.4 for wet on wet, because that's what they recommend for your wet on wet to be sprayed at, is a 1.4 needle nozzle. And again, this PPG wet on wet is quite a nice product. Again, the only thing I've really got to say about PPG is I struggle to get the colour matches. All the products work as they should. The paint goes on nicely. It dries as you'd expect. I think the one visit modifier is a little bit misleading, but we'll get into that. On a black, it's not too bad. Again, putting on I was going to say black wet on wet, but this is as dark as it goes. This is G7, but yeah, it's good enough. Sort of 2 good coats with the one visit modifier and a drop coat over the top with this is spot on. Let's take a little look inside the UV chip repair kit. Handy rubbing block, 100ml of rapid clear, 100 applicator sticks, and of course the UV torch. So once you've found your imperfection, you like to fill it, flash it with the UV torch, of course, a few seconds, sand it, and then polish it up, and it really is that easy. Our UV clear is phenomenal. It's crystal clear. It will never sink because it's 100% solids, so there's nothing that can evaporate out of it. And I'd like to introduce you to our PainTeX Pro-Cure. We've massively upgraded our torch compared to the old, with more than 3 times the power and a huge curing area, even compared to a much more expensive competitor. Now back to the video. So yeah, to be honest, I'm quite enjoying the gun. I've seen their prototypes. I'm not going to say any more. For the next AccuSpray and what they're going to be doing with the PPS2s, I'm very, very interested in that. I think they've got some great ideas coming down the pipeline from 3M. And again, it's one of these things with these guns. I really, really do like the idea of them. Having been here for a little while, I have had to spray multiple colours in the spray booth, and I think it's pretty cool that you can take the, I don't even know what they call it. You can take the end off. So it is the fluid tip, the air cap sort of assembly, and you can take that whole thing off, and then you can put on the next colour. So you can have multiple colours lined up, and all you've got to do really is wipe the needle, clean the sort of excess off the end of the needle, put the next sort of front end of the gun on, and off you go. So if you're doing multiple colours, I mean, if you look back in some of the videos that I've done multiple colours at a time. I've been in situations where I've had 6 different colour bumpers in one booth, and you've got every base coat gun out, and you're doing, you know, all kinds of sort of running around cleaning stuff to get it to where you need it to be. But with this, you can just sort of line the pots up along the side of the room, pop the end off the front of the gun, put the next colour on, wipe the needle, put the next colour on, off you go. So that's a very unique thing to the gun. I also think I'm just going to mention I'm using adhesion promoter here while I'm in the middle of my little rant. Again, I think maybe I should plan out what I'm going to say a little bit more than just going off the cuff. We've got etch, we've got plastic adhesion promoter, we've got all that good stuff in there. But for me, I think 3M have missed one little thing in the marketing with this gun, and I really do believe that this should be aimed at a beginner. I've been in multiple places where you've got sort of the new guy or the apprentice, and they don't have sort of £500-600 for one spray gun, never mind 3 or 4. You imagine not everybody has their own primer gun. A lot of companies will buy a primer gun, but they're often in bad shape. Nobody looks after them. It's just a primer gun and it's slung in the corner. So if you want your own primer gun, you need your own wet on wet gun, you want a base coat gun, you want a clear coat gun, you need all these different sort of, you'll see I've got the finer tip on the end there. You've got all these different sort of needle nozzles and gun setups that you need, and I think that maybe 3M should angle this towards the apprentices and the newer guys in the shop that don't have I'm not saying that they don't have the money, but again, if you're an apprentice and you've only got enough money for one gun, I would buy this one, and then that way it comes with a pack, and you can get away with, especially these newer tips, you can actually clean them out. Oh, that's not even the finer tip. I thought it was on the end. We've been using a mixture of the both. We have some of these white ones in stock, so I've been using them up. One of the other painters looked at me like I was some sort of weirdo the other day and said, "Why are you using that? We should be using the other ones." And I just told him the guy in the stores told me to use up what was there and then open the new packet, and for me, I don't really care, to be honest. Especially on a black. It's a metallic black. It's an Audi colour. It's not one that I recognise. I can't remember the name of it. The code. It was LY5 something. I honestly can't remember, so don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure I could have used my 40 quid spray gun to paint this car and nobody would have noticed. So the difference between this white air cap and the new finer ones, nobody's going to know. So I'm not that really bothered. Anyway, getting back to it, I think the idea that you can change out the ends, so you can have, I don't know if they do a 1.8. I need to double check. But then I know they definitely do the 1.4. They do 1.3, 1.2. I think 1.6. I want to say 1.6. They do a few different ends. But again, if you're an apprentice and you need your first gun, this is probably the one to go for. I mean, there's some dirt cheap sort of Chinese guns out there that will come with multiple sort of needle nozzle setups. And again, I was just talking about my 40 quid gun there. Some of the really sort of cheap looking ones are not going to last in a gun wash. I've seen some where they're like blue and then somebody will put it in the gun wash and whatever they've coated it in just comes off the outside of the gun, and they're pretty poor. So I would never suggest to waste your money on one of them. Again, if you've got a couple of quid and you could probably afford one gun, I would go with one of these. Or you can, I mean, there's some great all-round guns. I would say the GTI Pro Light, maybe a TE20 with a 1.3. You could probably get away, well, you could definitely get away with using it for base and clear. It's just one of them. You've got to be meticulous about how you clean it. So the fact that you can pop the end off the front of these and then just put a new nozzle on it. So I could have kept this gun in here, not that it would flash off that quick, with the 1.4 on the end. As soon as it's flashed off, swap the needle nozzle over, put the 1.3 on it with a base in it, and just go. So that's ideal. Again, not that the paint would flash off that quick, but if it did, I could simply pop the pot off and the needle nozzle on the front and put the 1.2 on for the clear coat and go at it that way. So it is a good option if you're in the market. I would probably lean that way over the DeVilbiss idea. Although the DeVilbiss is a phenomenal gun, the GTI Pro Light. My only thing is I like to keep base coat in the gun. And if I'm, for whatever reason, think that I'm ready to put the clear coat on, and I'll go and get it mixed up, and I'll get ready, and then I'll have a sort of quick look or whatever I'm doing, if I'm blowing it off or tacking it before I'm about to clear coat it, and I spot that I've missed a bit and I've only got one gun, I've got to now, what do I do? Do I take it out of my gun, clean it all out, put the base coat back in, go in, blow in that little bit that I've missed, come back out, have to re-clean it? It's not ideal, so that's why I would go down this route rather than having one single gun and doing base and clear in there. Imagine you probably do. I mean, I use a 1.3 for wet on wet when I've got my Slim X, so you could definitely use that, like a Pro Light 1.3 T20 for a lot of jobs. You wouldn't get high build through it. Saying that, I'm sure there's some modern high build that goes for a 1.3, 1.4, but not for me. I don't know. I don't use that system, so that's what I would do. I would probably go with one of these 3M AccuSpray, and then it's nice as well. You can clean you can get quite a lot of hours out of each individual cap, which is nice. You think I've read somewhere it was like 150 sort of spraying hours or 150 jobs you could get sort of painted through them. I like to leave mine in the base coat gun cleaner. I've not had any issues with that. I sort of give it a good rinse out with the gun cleaner. Again, this gun wash isn't nice, so I haven't been using it as it should. I give it a good clean as I can. Get a gun cleaning brush in there, give it a good brush out, and then I've got a pot of clean sort of gun wash, and I just leave these in there, and then when I'm ready to use them, I'll run them through the solvent. Again, it's not that nice, but I can run a bit of solvent, cleaner through the air cap, and then off we go. So yeah, it's working for me. I like them. Again, they last quite a long time, and I would go down that road if I was in the market for sort of one gun. And you've noticed here, I've changed up the booth. I was going to do this in like doors first and then car and what have you, so I've sort of split these videos up, or chopped them up. It's all the same job. This had a massive accident. I think a lorry sideswiped it while it was possibly on the hard shoulder somewhere. The lorry must have been going at some speed, so I imagine it was on the side of a motorway. But yeah, it was two new doors, new front wing, quarter panel. Repair the corner of this front bumper here. We're blending the bonnet just for fun, which is nice. Again, when they will give you blends, and there's sort of plenty of hours on this job, so I'm just giving it a nice coat of paint across the front, and then I'll blend up from where the wing goes. But it's one of these things about being a bit conscious while you're painting. Obviously the door and the panels aren't in this oven while I'm doing it, so I need to know. I might have looked at that bonnet and only done the front and forgot about the wing. You know, if I wasn't paying attention, that's kind of what I'm getting at there. Just paying attention, knowing that there's a new wing that's going on there, and I should blend up up into the bonnet for that reason. Although very, very odd to be blending a black like this, but the insurance give us the time and the sort of the pay to be able to blend it, so that's what we've done, and it just makes a better job for the customer in the end. It's it matches all the way around the front now. You see I'm again going super far with it. I could have just tried to keep it within that swage line and what have you, but I've gone sort of halfway across the bonnet there and just done a nice big blend. You know, we're doing the whole side of this car, and do it justice. It's a fairly new Audi A6, I think, and in the last video I was going on about the sealer. I had a nightmare with the sealer on this one. Again, not having the experience to be able to do it, sort of day in, day out, and you'll see down the bottom where I'm spraying there, it actually missed a bit. And there's a bit of confusion as well between the body guy and myself. I actually prepped this one. But he said he'd done all the sort of the internal sealer under the wheel arch and within the boot floor. I had to end up using sort of aerosols to get inside the car, rather than trying to take everything out of the inside of the car to paint it. It was a massive job. That whole sort of rear quarter came off. I'm not sure if there was inner rear quarter panels that needed to be replaced as well. It was a big one. So we put that all back to factory in there. And what happened is he'd said he'd sealed all of it, apart from here. You can see on the back end where I've put the new sealer. And so we put all that on, and it was all good. And then some eagle eye guy, when they was fitting it back up, had missed a little bit on the bottom. Again, it wasn't the end of the world. It was sealed. It wasn't. I say it was sealed. It was filled, but it didn't have the sealer where it connected. We wouldn't have ever rusted or anything if we'd missed it. But luckily, we had some black sealer in the store, so we went and opened that, and then we were able to just put a nice sort of bead of black sealer. And it was only, don't get me wrong, it was only about sort of 5, maybe 6 inches of sealer that needed to be put on, just to make it look OEM. Again, it was sealed. It was probably welded and then filled over. So again, nothing was gonna ever be wrong. But it was that miscommunication again. Somebody's doing half the sealer work and then giving it to the prepper to do the other half the sealer work, and it was a bit confusing. So we got there in the end. Again, no harm, no foul. We just made it look OEM. And you'll see here just going over the sealer that I did put on the rear panel there, and then sort of blend it in underneath. Loads of fun. And all the all these little fiddly bits as well that go with it. Again, the accident was so bad it took out the whole side of the car. So it's new petrol cap, new mirror, new door handles, new handle end caps. Yeah, a bit of fun. And then trying to get it all on a stand. This petrol cap's got nothing to clip onto at the back, so we've got a pair of pliers, and they're just sort of bit onto a little tiny bit of plastic clip on the back of there. I think I nearly dropped this at one point as well. This was if you look inside the mirror cover when you get the opportunity, there's not much in there to hang it off of either, so or to hold it. So we've had to use like a giant clip to clip it onto one part, and then where it opens on the end, this is spring loaded, so it shuts itself, and the sort of the two ends that you would hold with your hand has pinched itself into the mirror cap. So that's allowed me, luckily it's got that little hole there as well, that's allowed me to be able to hold it and maneuver it to fully paint it. And again, this is just some of the obstacles that you have when we're painting stuff, so it's all fun and games. I'm sure I nearly dropped this at one point. I nearly died. Had a heart attack. I caught it. It must be on the next coat. I'll be waiting for it. Again, with the one visit modifier, it's probably good enough. But the sort of relationship that I've got with this paint at the moment, I'm terrified. I'm not terrified of it, but I don't want it to be wrong. So I've got the one visit modifier in there, and I do end up giving everything 2 coats and then giving it a drop coat afterwards just to be sure. I mean, in all honesty, I probably should have put the wet on wet on these parts, but I didn't. So here we are. Give it. Make sure it's got a good couple of coats on there to get the coverage. These little things are probably overlooked. They were, I think they were kept in the stores. I can't remember why I didn't put them in with the actual doors and the wings in the last sort of booth load, which would have been ideal where I had the wet on wet in the gun. was going to say, I can't imagine that you would mix up wet on wet just for a couple of things. Although technically, you know, you definitely should. It was just one of these things. It was probably a small oversight on my part. There we go. Go and refill it up. I think I mixed 1.5 litres of paint for this car. Quite a bit. But it's one of them things. This again, front bumper, rear bumper, 2 new doors, new quarter, new wing, new accessories, bonnet. There's quite a bit going on. And you'll notice here as well, I'm doing all of the bumper. I think I've done all the front bumper as well. And this is one of the things where I've been in defleet centres before. I mentioned it in my last video, the sort of differences between defleet and crash repair. I've tried so many times in the past to only paint what needs to be painted. So this side of the bumper that I'm working on now didn't need to be painted. We could have blended halfway across, clear coated it all, and you know, because then that side matches where it lines up with the quarter panel on the other side and all that good stuff. But I've had it so many times where there's been a small bust through and it's bit me. You might get away with it on a black, but on a different coloured car where, I don't know, let's say like a silver or something, and you burn through it, there's usually like a grey line, and that they're often quite dark, and it's, if you miss that, you can't hide it. It's not easy to do. You end up having to blow it back in, and for the amount of drama that I've had in the past, I just blow a coat of paint over the whole thing. It's the quickest and safest way to do it. And you'll notice there as well, I don't think I filmed all of the, I probably did film it all, but it would make a massive video. I mean, this video is, 25 minutes long. So, to show you essentially the same thing of putting another coat of base and then the drop coat over the top, would just drag this video out. I suppose you could watch it twice if you want. That'll be what happened. It will just be twice as long, and there won't be sort of any any difference in what I'm doing. Again, when I done the wet on wet, I started on the back of this door, worked my way around the front, and that's what I was saying as well. I get very robotic. I'll follow my previous sort of, not path, but if I start in one place, that's where I start, and I'll follow the same route around the booth, and then that way, especially with clear coats, everything dries in the same order. If I clear coat this first coat, and then give it 5-minute flash off, when I come back in, if I started up the other end on the, the wing and the hinges up there, so the hinges, if I started on those hinges instead of this door, then the flash offs would be different. It wouldn't be much different, but in some cases it can be enough to cause an issue. It might that might have only had 3 minutes, and perhaps 3 minutes is long enough for the solvents to escape, but it might still be a little bit too wet and it could run, things like that. So by always starting in the same place and finishing in the same place, it keeps that consistency. The 5 minutes in between coats and then starting where I finished off wouldn't give me the same sort of drying time as if I started where I should have started, if that makes sense. It's just about being mindful. I have had it. I'm being from those sort of defleet kind of places. I'm used to moving at such a fast pace, where I was gonna say I find myself being impatient, but it's just wanting to crack on, and if you don't give it long enough, it will run, and then you've got to run, and then you've got to polish your run out, and then it can be fun. I was going to say it's going to be like you're not in the booth doing what you need to be doing, but in a place like this where there's multiple painters, somebody else can jump in, although they didn't. They can. And not that I got a run in this one. I had one the other day, and it was a bit of a nightmare. We were on a rotation in the booth, and there's a few of us, so it was like we'll all do 2 days each, and we'll just rotate. So some weeks you might be in there twice, some weeks you might be in there once, and you might not even be in there at all. I mean, there was 4 of us all doing 2 days each, so however that falls rotation wise. But I'd done my 2 days, got a run, and it wasn't a bad one. It was long, but it just come off of an edge, and it wasn't horrible. I'd went and spoke to everyone again, because we're painting stuff that needs to go out sort of the same day. Spoke to the guy that was fitting the car up, told him it wasn't a problem. It'd be easy for me to polish if it was on the car, not to worry about it. Spoke to the manager. I asked him what was going on with the car, because I think they were booking it, but it hadn't been. The customer wasn't coming to collect it until like the next afternoon. So I said, no problem, don't worry about it. Kind of book it out, get arranged for the people to come and collect it. The run wasn't worried about polishing it at all. And then so I come in the following morning. I told the painters as well that, I've kind of done my 2 days, but this I've got this run that has to come out because the customer's on the way to collect the car in the sort of mid-afternoon. So I went out there, I was polishing it and all that good stuff, blading it away, and then the manager says, "Who's painting?" I don't know, one of the other boys. And then he went over to the other boys and they said, "Oh, I don't know." And he said, "So I think this was about," it was bad, it was probably about sort of 10, half 10. Why is no one in the, why is the oven on? Firstly, who turned the oven on? But why is nobody in there painting anything? We're a production shop, we need cars out the door, what's going on? And they all just sort of looked at each other. I don't know who should be painting. And it was just one of them. I was just kind of, what are we playing at here? So it was one of the things that made me want to leave. Not that it was one of them things, but it's all the time. It was constant. If I'd done my 2 days, I'd come in on the next day, not prepared to paint, thinking, it was somebody else's go. And then it was, "Oh, you stay in there." Or, "I've started this massive job, so I can't go in there." And it was just like, maybe they're dodging. I'm not going to blame it on PPG. I was going to say maybe they're dodging it because the colour matches are awful. And it could well be that. But it was one of them things for me. It was too much. Like, if you want me to just be the painter and only paint, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. That's basically what I was doing at Defleet Centres and stuff. You were the painter, and I think one of the places I was at recently, there was 2 painters. One paint mixed for one of them, and the other painted all day. And then the next day we'd rotate, and then that was it. But when you went in the booth, you were in there all day long. Now, if whoever was paint mixing went on holiday, or we could get someone to paint mix, or you could mix your paint and paint yourself. Either way, we were in there and we were doing quite a lot of work, so it's not the end of the world for me to be in the booth like that. But when I started and they're like, "Oh, we'll all take 2 days each and it'll be fair," and then that way, because that's the thing as well, I was going to say it's easy in the booth. When you're in the booth, you're out of the way, no one's really hassling you, you can just sort of get on with your own job, your own day. It's easy enough to do, and a lot of places people just want to be in the oven. So I thought that was kind of what they were getting at, like it will be fair on everybody then, because I'm not a big fan of it, but being out on the shop floor, being covered in paint dust and primer dust and filler, and it can be a bit tedious out on the shop floor. So I was like, I don't mind at all, like I can go in there and paint sort of 5 days a week, no bother. But when they said it needs to be fair for everyone, that's what I was thinking. It needs to be fair that everybody gets to go in the booth, and I'm not just some booth hog that's coming in to spend all the time in the booth. And I feel like now it's probably the other way around. They probably wanted me to be in there all day so that they could just faff about on the shop floor and talk all day long and do whatever. So yeah, it was kind of one of them. But as things had started to add up over time, it was one of these. I'd kind of had enough. So I'd booked a day off, and it was, to be honest, it was to take my wife to go and look at some schools for our children as they're moving up through the different years through school and stuff. And sort of the Thursday night, they said, do you want to come and look at this place? When can you come in and look at it? And I was like, well, I'm off Friday. I've got stuff to do in Friday sort of afternoon. But went in there, had a little look round. One of the first things the guy said to me is it's Spiezecker. I jumped for joy, literally jumped for joy. And he said, I've had good references from you, all that sort of stuff. The people that, mutual friends that we know, kind of thing, they'd already vouched for me. And they just said it's basically a formality. Get yourself in that oven, paint that car, and we'll speak to you about it then. And they offered me it on the spot, so it was one of these, because this job was quite far away from the house for me, sort of 45-50 minute drive every day, well, each way. And don't get me wrong, it's not that far, but it's far enough to go to work, to be in a place where you're not like you hate it. It's not a bad place. It was just grating on me after a while. It becomes too much, and you know what you're walking into every day, and it can get you down a little bit. Not that I'm that kind of guy. I'm very much a kind of, I'm not going to swear, but stuff this, I'm off. And that's kind of what happened. I'd rather remove myself from the situation. I'm quite proactive like that. If it's a good place to be, it's a good place to be. It's quite easy to get on, but like I say, over time I was starting to get a bit fed up with what was going on and what I was seeing, and I'd had enough. So what I thought I'd do is I'd do my exit interview on YouTube and talk to all you guys about it instead. But yeah, it was just one of them. It was the end of the line for me. I feel like I should be talking about what I'm doing, but I'm putting 2 coats of clear on. This being the first. I think I will show the second coat. But I don't know. It's one of these. It's why I feel like I like transitioning into a paint sort of podcast where we can talk about things. It is very hard to keep explaining that it's 2 coats of clear and 2 coats of base and a drop and then a clear. Or if you're using the Mighty Exalta products, then it's sort of your one visit application. PPG, that's how it's done. Yeah, whack it all on in one go, hit it with your orientation straight after, walk away. But I'll try and get technical about these videos again as well for some of the newer guys. I understand maybe a lot of you guys are new to the channel, and thank you for joining me on this crazy journey. But it is kind of hard to just, I mean, look at this, what am I doing here? It is kind of hard to explain what I'm doing over and over. My spray guns are always full fan, full fluid, unless I do adjust it in, but you usually see that on the video. 2-bar, my Porphis, I do run the Porphis at sort of 26, 27 PSI. It likes to be that little bit lower. And I say it likes to be that little bit lower. If you put it at 2-bar, it won't do anything different. It will still go on silky smooth. I just notice a little bit more overspray kind of bouncing off the car and into the air. So maybe the transfer efficiency is a little bit less at that pressure. I wonder if this is where I nearly drop it. I'm sure I caught it on video. Spraying it all up nice, and it bounced right. Like, I don't know, I was trying to move it around and it sort of fell out of my hand and then back into my hand. I thought I was going to drop it on that quarter panel there. That would have been fun. Maybe I've missed it. Maybe it's in that clip that I've edited out. On the second coat of base, it might have been. I'll need to try and dig it up and put it on. I'll maybe stick it on a short or something. But yeah, imagine dropping that that big hefty clip there on that bar into the quarter panel and then having to go and tell the manager that car's not going anywhere because I've just dented it. I just threw the ring mirror at it. He'd be a happy boy. Yeah. Probably as happy as me showing up on my day off, coming to collect my toolbox. But it's one of these. It's kind of no hard feelings from me. It was manager was a top banana. Not a bad word to say about him, but it was just one of these. Maybe I didn't fit in. I don't know what was happening, but I'd seen enough. I did mention as well a few times, and I don't know if I've said this on a couple of videos sort of before I left, but if your colours aren't right, I wanted PPG to come and look at what I'm doing wrong maybe, or how we can achieve better matches. But being an experienced painter, and I've met a lot of reps and thought about becoming a rep at some point, I'd still love to do it. It's just trying to get one in your area. There is one available at the minute, but I'd have to relocate and move my family, and that's what I was saying about schools and stuff with my kids. If we're getting them settled into schools, and I'd have to move and sort of start life somewhere else, and that seems a little bit much for me at the minute. But I've been around enough reps to know that they're going to say, well, where's your spray out card, is the first thing. So you go and get your spray out card, and they'll go, well, this is wrong because we've done the spray out card at the same time as painting the car. And then they go, well, you should never paint a car unless you've got the colours sprayed out, colour matched up before you start. But in reality, we're not doing that here. We're working on cars that need to go out the same day, or if they're not going out the same day, they're going out like the following morning. You've got no time for error, and having no time for error often means I don't have time to do spray outs, 3 or 4 different shades and mixing up all that kind of stuff, because again, if I'm the painter, I'm in the booth pushing the cars through the oven to get them out the door. I did suggest to the other lads that we should do them while we're doing the primer. So I prepped this car, but maybe whoever was prepping them at this place was cameraing the car, getting the spectra out and checking that the colour was good or whatever. But all we were kind of doing was just loading it onto the computer and then letting the painter pick. So what I suggested was, while you're doing the primer, grab the 3M gun that's quite easy to clean and change and all that stuff. Mix up whatever the best shade is, whatever the computer's saying this is the one that's the best. Mix that up, do a spray out, then bring the spray out into me. I say me because I'm painting, but bring it in whoever's doing it. Take it into the painter, and he can clear coat it while he's clear coating a job. I.e., now I could clear coat the spray out for the car that's sat outside the oven or is about to come through the prep line. Then that way we've got a ballpark idea. So if this car, I don't know, has like a red hue to it, and they do the spray out in the primer oven, and I've got a spray out before the car comes in, I might look at that card and say, this is bluer shade. So now I've got an idea when I go onto the computer, if there is a redder shade, that's more than likely where I need to go. But in reality, I sort of mentioned that to these boys, and they're like, I'm not doing that. We could. It makes sense, but I'm not doing it. It was just... not that it's their attitude, and it's weird, and... I don't know, who are we kidding? It is their attitude, although they played it off like it wasn't... They didn't tell me to my face, I ain't doing that, I'm not interested, or I'm just here to collect a paycheck, or I don't respect you, and I'm not interested in your ideas, whatever it may be. It's very difficult to work in a way like that. You want a team around you that are gonna... I don't know, the thing for me is my job is to paint the cars, but I feel like my job is to make my manager look good. Now my manager, he wants 5 cars a day painted. If we can run this, because we're on a production line, we're on a track system where we can push these cars sideways through the whole system. If we can paint him 6, 7, 8 cars a day and do a nice job of it, he's not going to be on our case. He's going to look good to his managers above him. He's not going to have anything bad to say about us. It can be really easy. I suggested we have a paint mixer doing the paints, because then the paint is not... I mean, we were doing stuff in here. My responsibility is to unbag that car. So when this oven comes off bake, it's me that has to take the bagging off and all the tape. And I could never get my head around it. I said, let's push it out into the bay next door. Let's get whoever's not busy, or... Again, maybe it's not their job, but we've got valeters, we had a polisher here, and if I'm being brutally honest, if they've not got anything on, they could be taking the bagging off of it. They're not part of the paint team. They're they're not on probably not on the kind of money that we're on either. But if this booth isn't running and putting cars through it, and I'm just sort of stood in here taking the tape off because that's the way we've always done it, I need to be able to just lift that door, push the car out, shut that door, push a car in the other side, and carry on painting. And that's how this place would make money, but it's just not happening. People, they're not interested. I'm not going to stand in the mixing room and mix paint all day. And it's just like, wow, okay. I could make it's a pretty easy day when you've only got to mix 5 or 6 different coats of paint, colours of paint even. And you see I'm just dancing around the car here, making sure not to sit in that bonnet. Which I have done before. Just like the little bitty overalls touching the car on a wet paint or whatever. But yeah, again, I'm trying not to be too negative, but I feel like there's a lot of things that we could have done and could have been a lot better. I mean, there was one place I was working at, a defleet centre, and we had... At some points, we had like 6 guys, which is probably what we've got in here. But if I brought those 6 guys in here and put them on this track system, we were painting sort of 15, 20 cars in an 8-hour shift. In here, the target's 5. I'm like, I've honestly felt like I could just switch those guys out, switch the bodies around. You go to this workshop, you come over here with me, boys. We'll get paid good money to do the same thing that we're doing. And we'll all have an easy life because we only need to do 5. And that's honestly how I felt. There's that experience from being in a defleet production centre that worked on a track system exactly the same as this. You couldn't beat us. I guarantee you couldn't beat us. We'd probably be the strongest team within the group. We would annihilate everyone, and especially when you've got guys that you can lean on. I know some phenomenal painters. You'd put 3 of us in here and we'd make everyone look silly. Like, that's... I'm not even being cocky about it. Like, let's do it. Give me a couple of bodies and I'll show you how many cars we can fire out nice and quick and quality paint and all sorts. I honestly believe we'd have a problem where the panel beaters couldn't keep up in the strip and fit team. Like, we could fire some jobs out of this place, but kind of... And again, it wasn't the manager. It was the bodies on the shop floor that were like, yeah, I'm not interested. I won't do that. And it was kind of like, right, I've seen enough. It's time to part ways. I'm not going to drive that far to do that day in, day out. It's not going to happen. So, I'm out. Dragon's Den style, I'm out. But yeah, I think this trade can be a phenomenal trade when you've got the right people around you. I know some great lads. I've worked with a few. One of them, Adam, phenomenal guy. Like, you just point at it. Adam, can you do that one? Yeah, and that was what you had to say to him. And it was mint every time. Like, and that's kind of what you need. And don't get me wrong, these guys can do it. They're not bad, but it's just it's not the attitude, or it is the attitude. I don't know, but I don't know if it's I'm not taking orders from you. Who do you think you are? You've just come in here and you think that we should do this and that. Like, we're not going to do it. Definitely one of the guys was like that with me. I said what I'd planned to do, because the other 2 sort of main painters were off, and he just laughed in my face. We're not going to do that. And I was like, is that right? And yeah. I'm like, oh, okay then. If that's what it's going to be, that's what it's going to be. But anyway, let's finish on a positive. This has got 2 coats of clear out of the Porphis PRD717. And it's a great gun. And I should mention as well, this we're using the air dry clear coat. This is the good stuff that I should be talking about, not maybe 1 minute before the end of the video. But the this air dry clear, we're baking it for 10 minutes and it's dry. So again, this was kind of the thing that I'm getting at with the speed kind of thing. Although we don't have a drying oven like a D-Fleet would, where you'd push it into an oven to cure separately, you literally have enough time to clean your guns out and maybe mix your next pot of paint and the car's dry. So that's what I was saying about pushing it out and having somebody else take the bagging off and I can get on with the next one. But what would, in reality what's happening is I'm doing all that stuff and then I'm having to spend 20 minutes unbagging a car because of, like, this is a big job or whatever, but sometimes they're overmasked and there's tape in places where there shouldn't be tape. It just mental. So yeah, this PPG, I believe it's the 8177 clear coat with a 10-minute bake, and again, phenomenal. It's really fast, holds up really well, polishes nicely. It is a good product to have. You can get a lot out of it, which is nice. You get your nice sort of OEM orange peel out of it when you apply it nicely, and it makes life easy. Again, like the only bad thing that I've got to say about it is I'm struggling with colour, but it's one of these things. I'm not going to be using it much longer, well, at all anymore. There's a couple more videos to come, I think, maybe one. I can't remember how many I managed to film before I left, but it was one of them for me. So I appreciate your time and I thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.